Yo, welcome. We're back. Host of Hard Knocks, episode 6, with my boy Mike, and we got a special guest, freaking real estate entrepreneur, investor, serial entrepreneur, incredible husband, incredible father, good friend of mine, Logan Manzanares. I like that. You like how I said
All right,
that?
guys. Yes, that
You
was
got that
amazing.
right.
What's up, brother?
How you guys doing? Thank you guys so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Excited to be here this morning, and really curious. What are we going to talk about today? What's on the agenda for today, fellas?
Logan, bro.
Everything about you, bro. I'm super excited to have you. Bro. I have the liberty of we had a few great conversations, and I realized they weren't even about really business. Like the stuff that I learned from you was really just man stuff, right? Like how to be a good person type of thing. And I texted you that the other day. Like I just appreciate you, bro. So I'm super excited for you to be here. This is definitely gonna be a good one. We're gonna talk. I really want to know how you started, right? Like what you had me on your podcast for my origin story, but I really want to learn about you, how you got started.
It's awesome. It all started back in June of 1988. No, so really, I was born in a military family. I was actually born in Ogden, Utah, on an Air Force base, Hill Air Force Base, and that was my upbringing. Was coming from a military family, and Germany. We lived in Texas, and then we ended up in Montana, and so that was kind of my my foundation came from us traveling around the world and moving, right? And until I got to college, I never lived in the same house more than 2 years. And so very much a gypsy. And how I see that benefit me today is that I don't see home like most people do as like this is my home and they get so emotional to it and they're afraid to leave it or they're afraid for somebody else to use that home and there's so much emotional attachment to it and I just don't have that, right? And that's because of my upbringing. And so that's kind of where that where that came from. My parents ended up splitting up when I was like 7th or 8th grade, and I lived with my dad. My little brother lived with my mom, and then we kind of again created this like we moved around. I moved back with my mom, then with my dad, back to my mom again. So I definitely jumped around a lot. And again, I think it comes back to that same place of like I don't have like an emotional attachment to one house or one specific thing. And once I got into high school though, I was like really frustrated. I was an angry young man. And so like I went to anger management for a couple of years just because my dad could not handle me. I would punch holes in the walls. I would just like act out. I got ISS from school from yelling at grown-ups for fighting, all that stuff.
No way, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. I could never see that. But what age were you at that point?
Yeah, so that was I think I went to anger management. I was like 9th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, right in there. And so my parents split up in 7th grade, and that was I think what kind of like just allowed me the freedom to just be a dick, for lack of a better word, right? So yeah, so went through that process, and therapy didn't help me, right? It didn't help me, not even a little bit. But what did end up helping was fitness. I fell into fitness on accident, and in school, it was my junior year, so I was at that point, I think 15 or 16 years old. You got to pick your classes, right? That was like the first year I actually got to pick electives and classes. I went to a small school, really small school. And my freshman and sophomore year, I did PE. I think everyone, that wasn't an option. But when I became a junior, I got to pick if I wanted to do PE or advanced PE, or I got to do shop class or something like that. And I was always into sports, played sports all the way through high school. And I was like, advanced PE, that sounds fun. Way more fun than shop class. And I chose advanced PE thinking would be like running around playing capture the flag and playing kickball and things like that. But it was just lifting weights, right? And so that was my introduction to lifting weights. I showed up the first day and I was like, oh yeah, you're gonna be down here in the dungeon. Our gym was in like below our gymnasium, like the basketball court. You walked into the dungeon, and everything in there was old school, man. It was like original, like it was grimy, right?
So Logan, I feel like we at this point, from what you've been talking about, we've lived the exact same life. Like I'm envisioning myself in my high school weight room, and it's the same freaking weight room right below the gym, like old nasty. That's so crazy. Keep going.
Those are the best weight rooms, though.
Oh, they are. They're fire.
Those are low-key the best weight rooms.
Yeah, that was amazing. You could turn the music up really loud, and everything was used in there, right? Nothing was new.
Right.
And so that's where I got my exposure to lifting weights. It was an accident. Even though I played sports, like weight training was not something that the coaches made us do or forced us to do. Again, I went to a really small school, and so I started lifting weights. And I remember within the first couple of weeks, my body started to change, and I was like, "Whoa, this is like pretty cool." And I remember this time. So I'm gonna go back just like maybe like a year or two. I remember looking in the mirror and just being like so frustrated and so mad. I hated the way I looked. I hated everything about my life. I just felt like I was really out of control. A lot of that was I hated that my parents weren't together anymore. And I felt like I had no control. You know, I was at that time probably a 13 or 14-year-old boy going through puberty, and I just was like very emotional. And I remember looking in the mirror and just like thinking I hated myself. I did not like myself. And I felt like I had no control. My ears are big, my eyes are big, my nose are big, my body was really small. And I just was like, man, I do not like myself. And so when I found weight training and my body started to change, I was like, I knew right away, like, this is my thing. Like, this is where I get to recapture control. This is where I get to actually live life on my terms. And here's the funny part, guys. Like, this is no joke. This was my epiphany I had about 2 or 3 weeks into weight training. I was like, well, I can't change how big my ears are. I can't change how big my nose is. I can't change how big my head is. But I could change how big my body is. What if I just made my body bigger? Also, my head would look smaller, right? And that was legitimately my thought process. And that's why as soon as I started to see my body change, I was like, dude, I'm hooked. Like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to get huge, right? Because then I wouldn't be so self-conscious about all this other stuff I have going on. And that's where I fell in love with the idea of being able to be in control and be able to change my body. And that belief, it has evolved over the years, of course, to just where I believe that now I have control over my life, and the effort I put into something is a direct correlation to what I'll get out of it. And I've been able to use that belief when I got into business. So I started my first business 10 years ago. And again, I knew nothing about business. I was a personal trainer. So I went to school, ended up going to college and getting a degree in exercise science. And then right after college, I got a job as a one-on-one personal trainer at a big box gym, and did that for about 2.5 years, learned the ropes, learned how to train people, learned how to actually get business, because I don't think many people understand this as a personal trainer, as a one-on-one personal trainer, like, you don't get paid hourly. You get paid like us, commission, right? That's how we all get paid. And so the benefit, though, of being in a big box gym is that you just have like all your clients are already there, right? So you just got to go talk to people on the floor. You got to do free consultations. You got to do free training sessions. And that's how I was able to get clients. And I learned it was my first experience in sales. And so I did that for 2.5 years. I amassed, honestly, only about 20 clients. About 20 clients. I was actually not very good at sales. I was not very good at acquiring new clients, new customers, but I was really good at training. I really connected with clients. I was a very personal people. I loved, like, Mike, like, I would chat with you about fitness all day long and just curious about you. And I would pour into people, right? And so what I realized looking back on it is I learned how to communicate with people, right? I learned how to actually be a good listener. I learned how to, like, look and at somebody and, like, add value to them, even outside of me just in a training session.
Mm-hmm.
And so
really you were getting good at sales. You just didn't know it.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting good at talking to people. I wasn't necessarily good on the front end of, like, asking people for money. I wasn't good at that process at that time.
Yep.
And so when I left the gym, I started my own gym. I took about half the clients. So 10 of them came with me and the other 10 didn't. And so I started my personal training gym, literally about 10 clients, with no plan of how to get new clients. no plan on how to like upsell or maximize my current clients. I just wanted to bring them over, and I honestly got super lucky. I found a spot that I shared with a guy who did.
Bro, time out. It's not luck. It's
No.
not luck.
Here's
You put
what was
yourself
lucky.
in the right position, bro. You took action. You just said, "Fuck it." You went.
Gerald, here's where I got lucky is that my thought. So I started up a little bit of money, and I thought that, and when I say a little bit of money, I literally probably started about 10 grand, which at that time seemed like a lot of money. But my idea was that I would find a place where I could rent for $1,000 a month, which at that time in my head was like kind of pushing the envelope, and that's where I would, train out of. And I got really lucky because I was looking for $1,000 a month places and I just couldn't find anything. Like there was nothing out there on the market. And then I found this like little small spot that was like $200 a month. I had to share it. I had to share it with this guy who did Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I was like, man, I don't really want to share this. Like I want to have my own thing, man. And I originally said, like, I saw the ad on Craigslist and I was like, no. And then one morning, it was like 2 or 3 or 4 days later, I can't even quite remember. I was like, something called me to like reach out to this guy. It's like, just see what he's got to say. So I reached out to him, went and met him, and I was like, okay, boom, like this is what I need. This is what I need. Like I'm ready to get out of this big box shit I'm at. I want to go do my own thing. And it was $200 a month. That's what it was. And ironically enough, like it was $200 a month of the whole thing. I paid the whole rent and he didn't pay any of the rent. Like that was like, he basically wholesaled he arbitraged this lease to me, right? But he still used it, which was great. Looking back on, like, great for him. And so this spot was like 800 square feet, and we shared it. And so at that time, I had like 2 squat racks and 2 platforms, and then he had all of his gear in the back, which was funny because some of my clients, a lot of my clients were women. And so they would come in and they would bring their kids sometimes. And so, the front half was like this gym with 2 squat racks and barbells and plates. And then the back half was his stuff. And he had like fake guns, like fake AK-47s and like fake handguns and like self-defense type stuff. Right. So it was awesome. So that's how I got my first business, man. That's where it all kind of started. And that's where I kind of learned the business ropes. And I literally knew nothing about business, guys. Like, I was a personal trainer who just wanted to serve my clients. Like that was actually my intention. And the only reason I was able to stay in business, looking back on it, is just because I really poured my clients. My clients didn't leave, but I also didn't have any mechanism to get new clients. And that was probably a 3-year process of me, like randomly getting referrals and just keeping the clients I had. I had clients that I trained for 5, 6, 7 years. Like I had very loyal clients because I was able to pour into them, right? Just like how any sort of relationship is that the more you're able to pour into somebody, the longer they're going to stay with you.
Bro, that's super nuts because I didn't really know your backstory at all before this. And it is very identical to mine. Like legit, almost exact same kind of upbringing, exact same thing with the weight room and everything. Like when I was a freshman, I started really getting into lifting weights because of football. And essentially because of my upbringing, I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep my ass in the weight room. That's it. Because I know if I go home, I'm going to freaking be miserable. So I'm just going to stay here. Right. And then after that, like this is after a bunch of different things. But another thing similar to you is I started in a barbershop cutting hair. And I ended up leaving that barbershop and taking, just like yourself, half of the clients with me into my own little space, which I'm actually in right now. And it's very super similar. So similar. So I'm like, wow, that's freaking nuts. But with that being said, before you go on to your real estate journey, I'm thinking about it, how it's so similar. For me personally, I had to go back. Like when I was lifting weights and everything, it was almost like a mask of what was really going on. So I had to go back and really dig deep and figure out what the fuck was wrong with me. Like there was some shit that was wrong with me because just like you, I was a mad ass little dude. I get to college, I finally can go do whatever the hell I want, which I kind of did anyways, no matter what. But I was free from my past, right? So then, but I didn't go back to it. And at that point, I didn't go back to it and I didn't like figure out what was wrong with me. So I started wilding out. I would get drunk as shit. Like I was wild. In college, I was wild. And it's because I didn't go back. So it wasn't until I went back and like dug the shit out from me to figure out what it was that was like eating at me. My life didn't change. So was there a point in your life, and I'm assuming maybe it's part of your real estate journey, but was there a part in your life, maybe even before the real estate journey, where you had to go back and dig and be like, yo, this is actually what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's why fitness is such a great foundation to learn skills from, is that a lot of it is personal development. A lot of it is self-reflection, like how you go to the gym. Like, again, is like a lot of that can start from a place of pain, and start from, I want to go mask something, I want to go hide who I really am. And I think that's how almost every single person gets into fitness, because they want to hide some shit, right? But as you start to evolve in that journey, and it's also the reason why most people fall out of fitness, is because pain is not a great enough motivator over the course of a long time. Like, pain is actually something that should be temporary, not something that's permanent. And so the reason why most people don't create long-term success with their fitness journeys is because once they solve the pain, they're like, now what? Right? And the next evolution of that is gain. And like, what do you like? What's actually calling you? And what is your purpose in life? Most people never make that transition. So I was able to make that transition into like, okay, now that I'm out of pain, right? I'm no longer this angry, horny little boy anymore, right? Like, what am I actually like what is my purpose? What am I trying to do on this planet? And I made a post about this the other day, and it was the moment that I quit worrying about what I could get from life, and I started focusing on what I could give to life, was really when it all changed, right? And so my fitness journey actually no longer became about me. It became about how can I serve other people in their fitness journey. Real estate, when real estate changed for me, is when I quit worrying about like, what can I get from real estate versus what can I give back to real estate. And same thing with my family, same thing with my wife, my marriage. Like, that's one of the most important relationships you can have, is the one with your spouse. And so many people, in the beginning, it's all about giving, and then somewhere along that journey, it eventually turns back around to like, what can I get from my spouse? And you got to be able to turn that back around and focus on what can I give to my spouse, and then all of a sudden your marriage becomes freaking amazing, right? Because it's no longer transactional. So I would say that's something that is a lot of reflection, and it's a lot of just paying attention to like, why do you do things that you do? Like, Mike, like, why do you podcasts? Why do you do real estate? And actually like asking yourself those questions, and it's a lot of reflection. And so whether it's digging up the past or whether it's focusing on the future, ultimately self-reflection is actually the skill set that is most important. I think it's one of the like the skill sets that I would say that I'm really good at. It's my superpower. It's my awareness. I'm very aware of people. I'm very in tune. Ed Milet made a great point. Is the first time I heard anybody else say this, and what he said actually helped me make that connection. Like, when I'm in a room with somebody, I'm really aware of what's going on. I pick up on things. Again, part of being sales is that you really are like, you got to pay attention. And I think that's ultimately like in my background, because there was so much volatility and there's so much moving around, that I was always on edge. I was always looking around like, well, are we getting ready to move again? Like, are we, like, where, like, how are things going to change? I'm always looking for that. And because I was very self-conscious as a kid too, I'm like, how's this person thinking of me? Like, are they looking at my ears? Are they looking at my nose? Like, do they think I'm ugly? Do they think I'm weird? Right? I'm like always like paying attention to people and seeing, like, trying to pick up on cues. And I believe that as a young man did not serve me. But that skill set that I acquired of being able to like pay attention and honestly be a good listener and be very aware of the room has now served me on now. If I look at Daryl, like, how do I add value to Daryl? I can just pay attention, listen to him, hear how he talks, and pick up on that. Right.
So good.
Or in a sales situation, same thing. Like, you're looking for opportunities to create value. You're looking for opportunities to create rapport. And so a lot of that's just done by listening.
That's so good. That's funny that you say that, because last night me and my girl were talking about somebody in her life. She's like, yo, I just realized that this person is truly crazy. And I told her, I'm like, you know what? I actually realized that the day that I met that person. The reason why I did it. And then she actually heard the Ed Milet story too. And I started saying that. I'm like, yo, it's because when I was younger, I could just really understand what was going on. Like at age 5, I understood that there was some fucked up shit going on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I had to I was really aware of stuff. And then she started, what she said was, oh, you're trying to be like Ed. She said that exact thing. So it's so funny that you say that. But bro, that's amazing.